Hi, thanks for joining me today. My name is Lindsay. I'm the designer behind Doing the Most Design, and you can find me on Ravelry at LindsayDTMD. I can't wait to show you what I've got in store for you for today's video. As I've been playing around with this demo hat, I have found a handful of errors. So this is kind of funny because this is my model. So this stitch right here, if you look at the motif here, these stitches are mirrored. So that is what we want. And then I don't remember or know where these stitches came from. I think this stitch is supposed to be this one right here, but I added an extra stitch in the wrong colorway here in the decrease. So with something like that, if you want to ladder down on both sides, it's actually extremely easy to do that because the length of the yarn strand here will be identical whether it's the knit stitch on the inside or the outside. So if, let's say, I had gotten up, let's say this is all in stockinette, this section right here, it'd be probably more difficult to do it in the decrease section. But let's say that I got up to here and I realized I'd made this error here, then I can ladder down here, correct it, go back up. This stitch will feel kind of tight at the time. Then turn my work inside out, ladder down to here, correct this. This stitch will have kind of a lot of gap in the strand, and then so I can re-knit this stitch and then ladder back up, and then I will have made both of these stitches, the front one and then this stitch on the back side. I would have the same tension in both of those strands of yarn. So that is one thing that you can do to help correct some of those types of errors. Again, when you do the wrong colorway. The other kind of error that you can come across, and I can imagine why I managed to do these errors, and it's simply because once I was trying to finish this hat, I was plowing through and watching TV, and I have ADHD, so probably just not paying attention very well. But for this stitch right here, you don't really see the V-stitch, you see these bars over the V-stitch. This is a situation in which the main color stitch, I probably brought it to the front when I was making the purl stitch that goes in between here, but I forgot to take it to the back when I was going to create this knit stitch right here. That's exactly what happens with something like that. It looks like over here I forgot to move my yarn for that stitch completely. So I would expect to see something sometimes on the front side, sometimes on both sides. Anyway, there have been a couple of occasions in which I have noticed that, for example, when I'm supposed to be knitting one color and then two in the next color and then one color, for example, like here, I might accidentally do two colors that are both in the same, like for this one, for the contrast color, I would do two in the contrast color, and then I would start back up with the pattern. And either I've shifted all of my stitches over by one, or I don't notice it, and then I have an errant stitch, which I think is probably something that happened up here as well. I missed a stitch in my pattern. This is 100% a result of the fact that I have been stitching like a mad woman on this. So right here, basically, this stitch should mirror this one right here and should be in contrast color and not in main color. First of all, as I was knitting this, I found little things like this often. I mean, anybody's mind can wander. I'm not a master knitter. I'm not certified, but but I like to think what I do is good. It's consistent, maybe not good, but in any event, what I would like to do is use this as a teachable moment and show you how we can then ladder down. Now, for the faint of heart, where we should be laddering down to is here. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and the live stitch. So that's 13 stitches down on this pattern, which are 99% main color. And then my live stitch is in my contrast color. So I'll need to remember that for later. This is probably one of the deeper ladder downs that I have done, generally speaking, in my life, but I believe in myself. And if not, I'll just delete all this part of the video. and re-knit from there. Okay, so I'm over here, have my yarn marker, my beginning around marker in place. I am just going to move over some stitches. This is all I'm doing, not working anything, just slipping them over until I get to that place. Okay, so there we go. This is the point in which this stitch is incorrect. I'm going to go ahead and grab a stitch marker and place it into the stitch that I know that I want to correct, and then we will proceed forward. All right, I've placed an interlocking stitch marker into the location, and all I did was just double check myself. So here is this contrast stitch, here's this contrast stitch, and then 1, 2, 3. Well, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 is the stitches. So I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's technically 3 rounds above where I'm at right now. So at this point, and because I know that I'll forget, I'm going to make a mental note that this stitch is in my contrast color. And this is going to be a lot more simple to correct than you might think, but maybe do your deep breathing exercises as you get set up here. So I'm going to take this off of the needle. I'm going to move my work so that hopefully no other stitches drop off unintentionally. And then very similar to when we corrected the brioche, I'm just coming in here underneath the loops, plucking out these longer strands so that they're no longer knit stitches. So I'm bringing my little tool underneath the stitch, and I'm separating the strand behind it from the stitch, just like this. And then with my thumb, I'm holding these strands in place so that hopefully when I ladder back up, they're more or less in the same kind of domino order that they are now. Okay, and then this is the stitch that I want to become a contrast color stitch. So that means that I need to pull that stitch out as well. And then with this stitch, which is accurate, I want to go digging around back here and find the strand that is the contrast color that is the neighbor to the left. All right, because that is the direction that our fiber will flow in. And later, because I'm creating some excess looseness with this strand, later on the next door stitch, I'm going to be grabbing up some of that slack. So right now, on the reverse side of my fabric, I'm technically going to create some additional tension until I ladder down on the back side of the fabric. And then I'll be releasing the tension there, and I will pull some of this excess looseness from this main color strand. All right, so we always want to keep in mind that on the knit side, the strands of the fabric for the other side should always be behind. And then we'll do that again when we ladder on the other side. So now I have that stitch pulled through, and I'm going to ladder back up. This strand was not the strand. We're like going over that strand right there. So we're skipping that one. We're coming to this one. And then we ladder back up. Just as we do. And then I'm reminding myself that my top stitch is my contrast color. Okay, so this is my top stitch here. And I'm going to go ahead and place this on my right hand needle so that I can get prepared for working on the next stitch over. So this is the stitch that I just laddered down and replaced. I do expect, and I do see that it's feeling a little tight, especially compared to like this stitch. I'm not able to wiggle my little doodad in there very well, but I think it's fine. We will release some of that tension when we ladder on the other side of the fabric. And then this column right here looks a little tight, which is fine. But if you want, you can kind of ease up some of the tension by pulling on some of the legs. And you'll be pulling tension from this column, and then you can pull on this right leg, and you'll be pulling some of the tension from this left column, especially if you're particularly nervous about like laddering showing up here. As a failsafe, you can also wet block your hat afterward, and that can help you move the fibers around and make sure that your tension looks consistent throughout. I think it looks passable. It's fine. All right, so I'm going to turn my work inside out, and we will do the same thing on the other side. Hey, have you been learning? Have you been laughing? Leave me a comment down below about something that you got out of this video, and hit that like and subscribe button for me, dude. Thanks. All right, I've turned my work inside out, and I've already placed my interlocking stitch marker onto the stitch that I want to become main color instead of the contrast color that is the background for this side of the fabric. And because we are doing two-sided fabric, we have to always remember that this right here is actually my right needle. This is my left needle. We are technically moving still forward into the pattern from right to left. However, we're going to be dropping this stitch off of what is technically the left needle. This is, don't forget, my size 3. This is my size 4. But this is the stitch that we want to drop down, mainly because it is much easier to ladder down work that is knit side than it is to ladder down work that is purl side. But again, making a mental note that my top stitch here is in my main color. This strand that I'm picking up here, that's my main color, this is the strand that I want to continue to use as my live stitch when I'm done with everything. And then just as we did on the other side, here is the second to last stitch that dropped off my needle. And I'm coming through here and basically just flipping all of these strands up and out from the knit stitch below it. And then I'm holding those stitches in place so that hopefully in the long run they'll stay in order. We made it! Okay, and then this is the final one. I'm going to remove this marker. There's always a chance that I've gone through strands, so I don't want to rip that marker out. And that was around this stitch. This is the stitch we want to change, so I'm flipping one more out. Okay, now previously we had grabbed from the left-hand side because that was the direction that our yarn was going, but for this one, we want to grab also from the left-hand side. So it's kind of funny how that works out. Let me put this marker onto this stitch so it doesn't really go anywhere. I'm just going to let that hang there. So on this side, remember when I said that we created more tension in this stitch? I actually have a lot of looseness in it now. No, this is the stitch. I have a lot of looseness in it now, and you can see it's just as loose as this stitch underneath. And then this was the stitch here that we created more looseness in, and you can see that I'm kind of pulling on that extra looseness here. This is that loosed strand from the main color. So that is the strand that I want to pick up on this side when I ladder back up. I'm going to remove this, put this stitch back onto my crochet hook, and I'm laddering up with the main color there. And then now for every other stitch except for the top, I'm laddering back up in my contrast color. On this side, I think it's a little easier to see some of that laddering that is occurring on the side, but on this side, all of the laddering is a little bit more visible simply because this yarn is a sock yarn and it's not as plush as the 100% merino main color is. All right, we're getting close to the top. Started from the bottom, but we're here at the top. And then my last stitch should be in that main color. making sure that I don't split my yarn. There we go. Okay, so here in a moment, I'm going to take out my safety pin. I'm going to put this back onto my needles, but I do want us to take a second and just really double check that we have laddered up the correct number of stitches, because if we haven't, we want to know that now. All right, so here is the stitch that we color corrected by pulling out the main color yarn, and I hope that you can see here, this has a very similar amount of slack and tension. So that is exactly what we've done. When you ladder down to correct stitches in this particular manner, you're not changing the distance of the yarn, like the strands of yarn. None of that is changing. And so don't worry about your stitches getting swallowed up. If you do feel like some of your stitches are getting swallowed up, then perhaps you need to redistribute the tension, but you're not changing anything about the distances in terms of making it shorter or longer. We are not creating stitches out of absolutely nothing. We're just moving the stitch from front to back, so to speak. Okay, so let's take the neighboring column and double check that we're going to count the correct number of stitches that we've laddered back up. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then 14. This will be my live stitch back on my needles here in just a moment. So we have successfully fixed a missed stitch in double knitting. It is maybe something that you'll need to practice, but the strands are all there. Okay. You don't have to freak out if you've missed a stitch. It's up to you about whether you want to take the time and energy to go back and fix it. I do. So that is something that I will do on Colorwork. I'll do that on double knitting like this. I'll do that on brioche knitting. It's worth it to me to fix these stitches. It is not worth it to me to come back down and reknit. It is not worth it to me to frog all of this and reknit a good 2.5 or 3 inches of fabric here. So I hope that you learned something with this technique for laddering down. It's not as hard as it might look. It does look very intimidating because if it goes sideways, it feels like it really can get tangled up. But trust yourself. Keep it small, keep it simple, but trust yourself. Thanks for making it to the end of this video. If you have not done it yet, hit like and subscribe so you can be notified when I put out more content for you. I'd love for you to connect with me on Ravelry at LindsayDTMD. Check out my Linktree for a collection of my projects. And if you're able to, leave a cash tip for me at my Ko-Fi page. All links are in the video description below. Don't forget to be kind to yourself as you learn, and thanks for spending your time with me. Bye!